and Company.
I'm going to be keeping you company for the next few hours.
You are not going to believe the company.
This company. You're going to bankrupt your mama's company?
At least I have the radio to keep me company.
On 93.5 and 107.5, The Fan.
So the stage is set, and we now know what we had been wondering for a while. We now know what we had been speculating, and you were going back and forth of, was it going to be this way, or what's going to happen, what's going to be the result, and we now know, as we anticipated to begin the week on this Monday, we know the answer. We know the answer. Just shy of a foot is the answer. Now, we thought maybe it was going to be like 4 to 7 inches. We thought maybe it was going to be 14 inches, which I think it was down in Columbus. You can, of course, make your own joke when you're talking about measuring those things. But I think safe to say 11 and a half inches in the greater Indianapolis area. And I know that it is very easy, and it is kind of low-hanging fruit to pick on the Department of Transportation or the city of Indianapolis or whatever it may be. But I will tell you, last night, around 5:30, I basically got stir crazy, and I wanted to do a couple of things for my parents anyway. So I went out, and it took a while to kind of dig the car out because it was parked outside. But once I got going, the two now, I understand if you're in the side streets of Indianapolis, like in your subdivision, they probably haven't gotten to that yet. But the main roads, and kudos to the people of Indianapolis for cooperating for this. I guess I didn't. I violated it, I guess, but not violated, but for cooperating and letting them plow the streets. But I did have to go out and do two things yesterday late, and there was hardly anybody out. But the roads by then, they had done a good job of clearing the main roads. Now, relatively speaking, I mean, they're not spotlessly clean, but when you have literally a foot of snow that fell in a day and a half period, it's easy to poo-poo, and it's easy to sit here and say, this is ridiculous, the roads look terrible. But when you consider the amount, I mean, it's unbelievable the amount of snow we got. So we now know that we have snow everywhere, and it's going to be here for a while. We also know that the Super Bowl is set, and it is the Seattle Seahawks and the New England Patriots. Just as probably, I think a lot of people would have said Denver if Bo Nix had not gotten hurt. And that was a disaster yesterday in terms of the fourth quarter of that game. It kind of got to the point where it was the blank show of it, I guess, was entertaining, but there was some element of it where it was like, come on. I mean, this game's basically over because nobody could do anything. But here is the game that I love to play this time of year. Eddie Garrison, I need you to put on your size 8 3/4 thinking cap, okay?
I can do that.
This is one of my favorite games to play, and you don't get to do it often. You don't get to do this game often. Maybe every 2 or 3 years, it's possible to do this game. I need for you, Eddie Garrison, to look out in our parking lot here on North Meridian in Indianapolis, okay? And they have done a decent job of plowing the parking lot, which means there are fairly large snow hills off to the side. Now, sometimes you'll see when they plow and everything goes right into the middle of the lot and you get literally a mountain of snow. But there is how deep or thick would you say? We're looking at probably 5 feet across by what, 7 feet high? Something like that? Eddie has wandered away to look out the window at it. Okay, what's your guess there?
I would assume so. You know, Jake, with how close we are, you could probably run down there. I could do play-by-play, and we can measure it in Jake queries. That's what we could do.
You want me to do that? Walk out there but I'm wearing my big, like fireman-looking boots, so I can't run very fast. So here is the question of the day.
Oh, hold on. We got a gentleman walking down the street. Can we evaluate how tall he is?
No, he stopped too, right? Just perfect timing. So that guy is that guy's about 5'11". So it looks like that bank is about 4.5 to 5 feet tall, right?
Yeah, it's about, I'd say it's about one Eddie Garrison.
And then if he were to lay down and go across it, it's about 4 feet wide, right?
Yeah.
So here's the question. What is today's date, please?
January 26th, 2026.
Okay. January 26th. It is a Monday, January 26th. I would like for you, Eddie Garrison, right now, to predict for me the date when there is no remnant of that snow left visible. Not a single spot of it.
Let me look at the forecast for the next couple days.
We're looking at a while, bud. Well past Valentine's Day.
Oh, no.
Yep.
You think that's going to be there for 2 weeks?
Yes. Where's it going? We're not going to get rain.
No, but we're getting sun and it's melting right now.
No, that's not melting.
It's slowly.
It's like 0 degrees out.
So the sun is what melts it.
I'm telling you. You mark my words. I'm going to say February 16th.
I'll take the under on that.
Okay. We shall see. Now, you keep in mind, there could be more precipitation to add to it. We don't know. But I was thinking about this as I was driving in. And I was thinking about the Super Bowl setup. And by the way, Pacers in action today, 1:30. That game against the Atlanta Hawks in Atlanta has been moved. I was thinking about that on the way in and the fact that I'm like, man, I got to get the good stuff in early because we're only on for an hour today. Pacers pregame taking over at 1 o'clock with Mark, Eddie, Pat, and the rest. Now, Eddie, I did not know the answer to this. Perhaps you know. The reason, obviously, for the change in time is weather-related, but is that because of something that is supposed to be coming into Atlanta, or is that something to do with where the Pacers are going next?
The Pacers are returning home. This is the final game of their 5-game road trip.
Okay. So is there supposed to be weather coming into Atlanta later tonight?
I'm not 100% sure. I don't think so. I know ice was a big concern down there in the southern states, so
right.
I don't know what the conditions are.
Or if they determined that was better for commute, like to do it in day, to get people moving in the day, I don't know. But either way, 1:30 start in Atlanta for the Pacers, and as a result, we will hand it over to them at 1 o'clock. But I was thinking about this on the drive-in with the Super Bowl being set. And notably, I was thinking about Seattle. New England as well. But for both of them, the compare and the contrast to the team that we cover in this market, the Indianapolis Colts. And I thought about yesterday and today both driving in the snow. And if you drive in the snow, you know there are a couple of things that happen when you drive through the snow. The first is, one of the keys is once you get going, when you start to feel a slide or a misdirection, you got to keep going. It's when you start pumping the brakes or when you slow down heading towards the snowbank that you get in trouble. You've got to have a plan on how you're going to drive and a vision of where you're going and stay on that. You got to stay on that. But you also cannot be afraid while you're driving through the snow if all of a sudden the car gets wayward and you do, in fact, find yourself in a snowbank. You've got to be aware of and ready to immediately pivot or come up with a different strategy. Whether you're like, okay, this road is now impassable. I'm going to back up. I'm going to reverse for another block and go down another way. I'm going to find another lane, whatever it may be. You have to be open to that possibility if, in fact, things you hit an impasse. And I think there's an element of that about building a football franchise in today's NFL. Part of it is there is something to be said about doing something and building it and just saying we have a vision of where we want to be and we just got to move forward and we just got to plug through it and keep moving. I think to an extent the Seattle Seahawks did that, to an extent. Because if you look at Seattle and what makes Seattle unique, it is the combination of a nasty defense, not Legion of Boom, but, that kind of a defense. And then in addition to that, very smart and opportunistic offensive plays. Now, it helps when you have the best wide receiver in football on your team. And right now, he is the best wide receiver in football. That helps. But they also have a really sound and shifty and opportunistic running game that they sprinkle in and it balances things. And then they have a quarterback that finally has found some footing here because he is in the right situation. And so much of success in the NFL is about finding the right situation. Is Sam Darnold a better quarterback than Trevor Lawrence? Is Sam Darnold a better quarterback than, insert name of young Jaden Daniels? Is he a better quarterback than, give me a young quarterback, Eddie, that looks like he's going to be a player, but we're still trying to figure out definitively because there's been some ups and downs. And the ups have been very high, but the downs have been a struggle.
It's a good question. I have to think on that one.
I wouldn't say J.J. McCarthy because we haven't seen a lot of ups, right?
Michael Penix?
Michael Penix, that's a good one. Caleb Williams. I think now we know is pretty darn good, right?
Yeah.
Jordan Love. My point being, so much of success for a young quarterback, and Sam Darnold's still only 28, so much of that success is based on what they have around them initially. In life itself, you see a lot of people that, even if it's in the twilight years of their life, the foundation of their upbringing starts to show itself. You start to figure out and learn and put pieces together about why people are the way they are because of things they experienced or saw or felt when they were very, very young. And the same is true of NFL quarterbacks. And in this town, Peyton Manning is arguably the greatest quarterback to ever play the game. Peyton Manning would have made myself and Eddie and James Boyd and JMV as the coaching staff look like great coaches. I get that. But he also had the fortune of coming into a system where he had the same O coordinator. He had, during his time here, 3 head coaches, one of which basically transitioned into the other. They were the one and the same of one another. And he had stability. He came in and he had Marvin Harrison right away. He had Marshall Faulk for a year, and then that became Edgerrin James, and they grew their wings together. And he had Reggie Wayne basically from early infancy throughout, and Dallas Clark throughout. And his O-line was consistent. He had consistency. And I look at the Colts right now, and I think that we just assume that we know the quarterback situation. But Daniel Jones, and maybe we are going to see it with Daniel Jones. Maybe Daniel Jones, in fact, when you look at it, you go, okay, this is Sam Darnold level potential because Daniel Jones in New York didn't have consistency. Daniel Jones didn't have pieces. But look at what Seattle did. Seattle was not afraid. Seattle went out and they said, okay, we need to get weapons. We need to get defensive players. We need to get Kenneth Walker, drafted in the second round. Charbonnet, drafted in the second round. They traded for Leonard Williams. Traded a second-round pick. Gave up a decent amount, but hit on that, right? Byron Murphy, first-round pick. They complemented with free agency some pieces. But they built a solid defense through being really smart in the draft, hitting on first and second-round picks, wisely spending when they traded those picks, and in free agency, getting pieces that immediately meshed. And then what did they do? When they had those pieces and they had dynamic receivers, then they went out and they get Cooper Kupp, but they draft well at the receiver position as well. They have all of the pieces. And the car is driving through the snow, and everything seems to be going okay, but with Geno Smith at quarterback, that kept kind of running into a snowdrift that was just too big to get around. And so they basically said, we've been moving forward this whole time. We had vision on what we wanted to be. We're progressing, and then you hear that thing when you're driving the snowbank. And the Seattle Seahawks had the presence of mind to say, we've got to reboot this, pull out of this, and find another navigating route. And so they went out and got Sam Darnold. And the Colts, to an extent, did that. They realized with Anthony Richardson, they kept driving into the same snowbank. So they went out and they got Daniel Jones. They can tell us till the cows come home that was about creating competition for Anthony Richardson. That was basically punting on Anthony Richardson and saying, we've got to get a starting quarterback. But the question now, Eddie, is this simply, and this is what I was thinking about. Just when it looks like the Colts, in fact, might have some stability at the quarterbacking position, I'm talking about at the beginning of the year, okay? Everything changed with that injury. And we don't want to talk about it right now, and we don't want to discuss it in parties in Indianapolis, but the reality is the Colts might be in a snowbank, and those rear tires are spinning. And they can't figure out whether they need a shovel or a bag of kitty litter to put something underneath it to get them back running again. Because Daniel Jones hasn't been re-signed for next year. We anticipate that's going to be the case. It seems inevitable. But at the same time, we have no idea what kind of player he's going to be. We don't know. He's coming off of a significant injury. Part of what makes him effective is his mobility. That may be compromised. And then what? Your backup is Anthony Richardson, and if you go to that, that's a tough one. Because if you go to Richardson, it's hard to go back from that then, right? And yet you also feel like probably they're going to try to flip that, and then Riley Leonard's your backup, and you're kind of stuck in the same snowbank. And I look at Seattle and New England for that matter, and both of them, and I just feel like both of them to an extent are, in the case of Seattle, it gives you a little bit of encouragement over what the Colts are doing because maybe Daniel Jones is their Sam Darnold if he doesn't get hurt. But at the same time, it seems as though Seattle, in particular in drafting, has been more effective and better. The Colts continue. Part of why the Colts are in the situation they're in, part of why the Colts have gone this long with a playoff drought and this long with a divisional drought and everything else, is because they keep trying to drive the car in the same snowbank, expecting it to suddenly gain traction. And I'm talking about building a defensive front. They keep going back to and having to spin pieces on the regular on their defensive front and their pass rush, and every time, right back into that snowbank. Every time. I mean, Tyquan Lewis and Kwity Paye, and they go out and they sign a guy for free agency for a year or two, and they get a little bit. Oh, we got traction here. We're moving. All of a sudden, and you're stuck again. As Latu, and I thought he was going to be a really good player. He might be a guy, but they have to keep spending their capital on the same snowbank, and they keep driving into it. And I just look at Seattle, New England, the Rams for that matter, and I think those are teams that basically looked at something and said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to build a defense, we're going to get weapons on offense, and then we're going to get a quarterback in there that just knows there's stability around him. And credit to Sam Darnold. Now, I do feel like, having said all that, Eddie, does it not feel like Sam Darnold might be due for like a 2-pick game?
Yeah, but I'm not sure if it's coming against New England.
So who wins the Super Bowl?
I think it's Seattle.
They look awfully good.
And just the way that Drake May has looked, at Denver and then against Buffalo, very skittish. Or not Buffalo, who'd they play?
New England played
Houston?
Yes.
Skittish, yeah.
Yeah, and I think Drake May's a good player, but he's young still, right? Going to be a good player in the league probably for a long time because he does have size. He is an accurate passer, but I thought about this yesterday as well. As I'm sitting there, these are the query brain droppings that happen when I'm sitting there having cabin fever, okay? I'm sitting there and I'm watching Denver and New England. And I'm like, this is what it's all about. This is football in America. When you're a kid, you think about the cozy snow days of like you're snowed in, there's a fire in the fireplace, your mom makes clam chowder and grilled cheese soup. You got board games going, you're down in the basement. All of those things, right? You're sledding out you're having a snowball fight, building a snowman, you come in, you get some hot chocolate. I mean, admittedly, I had a very idyllic childhood. I hope most people did. But that's what you think about. And you think about in the coziness of that, a football game on television. in a football game that's just snowy and messy and cold and blistery and no visibility. And Eddie, I wondered this question. We'll never know this answer. And sometimes with rhetorical questions, it becomes dangerous because what's the point in asking a rhetorical question if you never know the answer? But I'm going to ask it anyway. The Colts started out 7-1, correct?
Yes.
And then ultimately 8-2, correct?
Yes.
And they were the number 1 seed halfway through, correct?
Yes.
So let's just say, for the sake of the hypothetical, that Daniel Jones had never gotten hurt. Let's say, for the sake of the rhetorical, that Pittsburgh never started blitzing Daniel Jones galore and offering the blueprint. And let's say that the Colts, after starting 8-2, managed to finish from there 6-1. And they finished the year 14-3. But they beat Denver, keep in mind. So let's just say that the Colts were the number 1 seed.
And the Chargers.
Yeah. But I'm saying in the tiebreaker because Denver was the number 1 seed, right?
Yes, yeah.
So let's just say, hypothetically, the Colts maintained that and were the number 1 seed. Okay? That means that the AFC Championship game would have been yesterday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon in Indianapolis, Indiana.
Yeah.
Would they have postponed that game?
That's a great question. I'm not sure.
I thought about this. I'm like, there's no way. They might have played it, but how do you? There's
As someone who drove downtown yesterday, yeah, no way. Yeah, you would have had to.
I mean,
postpone.
Eddie, we were under a city like emergency, basically essential travel only.
Yeah.
I mean, I had to go out. I went out because my parents are, I had to go and do something for my dad, and but I mean, I'm not saying that makes that essential. I'm not a medical, but I'm saying maybe I even defied right there. But the point being, there's no way how would you have got, think about the traffic downtown Indianapolis on a regular Sunday in October when it's gorgeous outside. Would they have had that game yesterday? Or would they have done it with no fans or delayed it? Could they have delayed it until Tuesday night or something? I don't know the precedent there. But I honestly thought about it, right?
It is certainly something you have to think about.
My mom chimes in. I'll bet the roof would have been closed. Yes, that's probably true.
That's a bold statement.
That would have been the one time they open it, right?
Right.
If they're playing Jacksonville, we consider it a huge advantage to open the roof. Jake, need your opinion. The Colts played 3 out of the 4 Super Bowl contenders. They could easily have gone 3-0 against them. Are the Colts close to breaking through, or are they at all not close? I think, in all honesty, I think they're not close, and I'll tell you why. The Colts, you can look at it and say, they hung with Seattle. With an experiment at quarterback, they hung with Seattle, and it took a miracle kick to beat them in Seattle. And Seattle is in the Super Bowl. They hung with the Rams. If it wasn't for A.D. Mitchell and 2 boneheaded plays, they beat the Rams, who were an NFC finalist and within a minute and a half of going to the Super Bowl. They beat the Broncos. It took a leaping call.
Leverage.
I know. But I always go with leaping because that's what Simeon Rice did. It took that, but they beat the Broncos. So look how close they are. But I don't think they're as close as that. I don't. And I'll tell you why they're not as close as you think, and I'll do it on the other side. And we'll hand it over to Mark Boyle, Pacers crew, in just 35 minutes. Short day of Query & Company, probably the way all of you like it on this Snowbound Monday here, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
This is Query and Company on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Couple of news and notes real quick. First off, my buddy Roy in Laramie, Wyoming, go Pokes, said, Jake, I've seen plenty of times here in Wyoming where the sun, even in 0-degree temperature, does melt snowbanks. I get it.
Ha!
But look at the forecast.
Suck it.
After today, you're not going to see much sun is the problem.
What are you, a meteorologist now?
Look at the forecast. That's the thing. Like, it's in basically cloud cover, overcast. We're going to live in Poland until like next Wednesday when it snows again.
-1 or below for like 4 of the next 5 days.
Yeah. I mean, now.
As the low, that is.
Are the Colts close when you look at the fact that against 3 of the 4 finalists, they were right there? I don't think so. I'll tell you why in just a second. But first off, Eddie, do you happen to have the breaking news sounder? One player that we're familiar with is on his way back, and another player we're familiar with is on his way out. Eddie Garrison, would you like to elaborate on both?
We knew last week that D'Angelo Pons was going to the NFL draft. Mikael Kamara announcing over the weekend that he will be entering the NFL draft, as did E.J. Williams. The latest, this is within the last hour, Omar Cooper Jr. will be headed to the NFL, and he will forego his remaining college eligibility.
Probably a third-round pick, I would guess, somewhere in there.
Third
or
or fourth round, yeah.
Okay, now, in terms of players that we are familiar with that we will be seeing later today that we have not seen in some time, would you like to elaborate?
On the Pacers side of things, Quentin Jackson is back on the floor. He has been dealing with an ankle injury. And Benedict Mathurin is also back. He has been dealing with that great toe sprain, and I think that's a fancy way of saying that it's turf toe, and that right thumb sprain as well. So Benedict Mathurin back today for the Indiana Pacers in Atlanta, top of the hour, pregame coverage.
And I would assume the Pacers would like to see him break out, not just for the aspect of trying to win the game, but I still think they probably would like to showcase who and what he can be. The Colts are not as close as they look. And the reason being is this. Look at San Francisco. San Francisco, over the course of the year, had injuries all over the place. All over the place. Watching the San Francisco 49ers season and injury report was like watching a PBA bowling competition in the pins fall. Every time you turned around, a different Niner went down. And yet, is that your bad analogy, Sounder?
Yes.
But yet, the Niners managed to stick around and found themselves, yes, I realize that they got beat in the playoffs, but still, they were there, and they even had players go down then. New England over the course of the year, and I will admit, this probably is as least familiar a Super Bowl opponent as I've been in a while. I've just not seen a lot of the Patriots. And they kind of remind me of, and people can sit here and say, what in the world are you talking about? But it feels to me like the Patriots are kind of like the Miami Dolphins back when they had the no-name defense. I think it was the Dolphins that had the no-name defense. But or was it the Broncos? But either way, you know, it's not a group of like these huge stars, and they kind of were just playing in the shadows of the disaster that was Miami in that division and the uncertainty of when exactly, you know, what you were going to get week in and week out from Buffalo in that division. And then we're always talking about just the dumpster fire of the Jets in that division. I mean, there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on with them. But it just feels to me like the fact that The other teams, part of being the reason why I say I don't think the Colts are as close as what that appears is because all of those games that I just mentioned were at the beginning of the season, and part of being a contending team is being able to overcome adversity as it comes to you over the course of the year. And I realize the quarterback position is a significant one, and they lost 2 of them. I get it. But they were reeling before that, partially because the areas where they have tried to invest and heavily put things together, they just have not been able to find stability. And I'm talking notably about pass rush and just defense in general. My understanding is Don Fischer, literally, he just started to feel his fingers and his toes 20 minutes ago from Saturday because it was cold. But, Don, I've got a feeling. Don Fischer, the voice of the Hoosiers, joining us on the Java House Peel and Pour guest line. It's funny. I saw a lot of this on social media, Don, which I know you very wisely don't partake in, but there were people outside of Indiana that were like, this is pathetic. Look at this turnout for the Indiana National Championship celebration. And I thought to myself, considering that we were basically under a state weather emergency, it was sub-zero temperatures. I got to hand it to the students and the people that did turn out for that. And I don't care whether it was 30 degrees below zero. My guess is you were going to be there regardless.
Well, I would have been there. There's no question about that. I got the call that they wanted me to MC the program about 24 hours in advance, and I said, "Really?" But
triple layer.
To goodness, yeah, it was really special to be a part of that, and I had a ball up there in the stage with those players and Coach Signetti and all the people that were there, and I know. It wasn't the 50,000 or whatever you could fit in the stadium, but there were probably 20,000 people there. And you consider the terrible weather conditions that we were in and how cold it was. And there were still people out there that didn't have something on their head. There were guys who took their shirts off, which was just crazy. It was just a special 35, 40-minute program, and it was just fun to be a part of it.
Don, I want to talk, obviously, basketball in just a second because Indiana getting set for a big one, rivalry game tomorrow night with Purdue. But before we do that, I saw a story earlier today, and we all know this. I mean, I'm not saying anything new here, but I think you really, when you step back and you look at the JMU players that came with Curt Signetti and their ability to kind of let everybody in the locker room, we've talked about this, know, like, hey, follow his lead. This can have a good result here if we buy in. And you look at the players that all maximized their potential under Curt Signetti. And oftentimes, many of them may be following the lead of the JMU players, but even Omar Cooper, who was already there, or E.J. Williams that transferred from Clemson, all these guys bought in. And so now when the true reward of that and the merit of Indiana is their ability to springboard beyond and go into the NFL and those things, what is it about the culture that leads you to be confident, Don, that the next group of guys that Curt Signetti brings in, either via portal or high school, will have the same level of buy-in?
Well, here's what I would tell you, Jake. They'll have the buy-in because Curt Signetti vets all of these people, all these portal players, every single one of them. And he does it in such a thorough fashion, knows exactly what their capabilities are, number one. Number two, the experience level that they have. And number three, the absolute coachability and character that they must come in with. If they don't have those areas of abilities, if they don't have those abilities, obviously he's not going to take them. And that's why Curt Signetti is successful with his process, the way he goes about it. He doesn't change it. And he looks for certain things in every player that he gets to come to the program. If they don't fit that criteria or the next criteria or the next one, whatever he's looking for, they just don't get recruited. And basically, something can be the deal breaker at some point during that discussion of whether the kid wants to come or not, whether it's money or any of those other aspects of it. He will get the guys that he knows fits exactly what he wants to do, and then he will develop them beyond the point that they are right now. And that has been shown in these 2 years that we watched Indiana football.
Yeah, I mean, it's remarkable because literally, Don, every player on that roster, seemingly, and I know this sounds hyperbole, every player on that roster is a better football player today than the day that they arrived. Literally every one of them.
There is no question about that. They are, because of the culture that he's installed, and you're right about the JMU guys coming here and helping to install that culture and helping to get guys understanding what this guy is all about. And I'm talking about Cignetti. And without question, the coaching staff he vets all these guys. Everybody that's in the program is a guy that he has personally said, I want that guy. It's that simple. And he knows what he's looking for, and he hasn't varied from it, from Indiana University, Pennsylvania, to Elon, to JMU, or to Indiana. And every place he's been, he's elevated that program, and, of course, he's elevated Indiana into a national champion.
Don Fischer is my guest, voice of the Hoosiers, Java House, Peel and Pour guest line. Tomorrow night, it is Indiana and Purdue, and the Hoosiers coming off their win against Rutgers. Don, one thing about Purdue, as I've watched them of late, and I think Purdue's outstanding. I know that you have a lot of respect for Matt Painter as well. But defensively, and teams go through ebb and flows. Right now, Purdue defensively seems to be struggling in getting out, and Matt Painter's talked about this, getting out and getting into the space of three-point shooters. That is an area that I would think is advantage Indiana. Wilkerson's been very good. He's a streak shooter, but he's been very, very good. But is Indiana, are there other areas from the outside on the perimeter that Indiana needs to kind of jumpstart here that seems to have lagged a little bit in their three-point shooting?
Well, the three-point shooters in the Rutgers ball game were all doing exactly what their job is. They were knocking down threes, and they were scoring the basketball almost at will against Rutgers. I mean, Rutgers is not a great team by any stretch of the imagination, but Indiana needed a game like that to get back into the confidence mode that they had earlier this season. And I think probably that was the big kick that they got out of this matchup with Rutgers, because this team seemed down a little bit. They didn't seem to have the same energy level. They weren't playing as tough a defense in that 4-game losing skid as we've seen them through the year up to this point. And I think they had lost a little confidence. I don't know that they would admit that, or they would say that maybe there were some other issues. And of course, Connerway got the ankle injury in the ball game preceding like 2 games ago, and obviously wasn't at full strength even in the Rutgers ball game. But he's a valuable piece to this puzzle that Darren DeVries has put together as far as this roster is concerned. And they need all these guys hitting on the same cylinders at this point, especially when they're into the schedule portion that they're in right now. And Purdue's just another aspect of that. And I'm not so sure that the defense that Purdue's playing right now won't be dramatically better against us because of the rivalry factor and the fact that Matt Painter isn't going to stand for his guys not playing at their best, especially at that end of the floor, because let's face it, they are a really good basketball team, and losing 2 in a row is obviously stuck in their craw right now, and they're going to come in wanting to try to dictate exactly how this game's going to be played and everything else. So I don't know. I don't care how good a shooter you are. You've got to be able to get through the defensive aspects of this game that Indiana is going to have to get through. And I think Matt will have these guys playing that hard at the defensive end of the floor, especially on the three-point shooters. And this is going to be a real challenge for Indiana.
Don, lastly, Tucker DeVries kind of broke out of a little mini slump there against Rutgers. Did they do anything differently to get him involved, or was it just a matter of kind of getting an open look and then just getting a feel back?
I think more than anything, he became more aggressive with the shot. If you remember if you didn't see the game, the first 2 shots he took from three-point land went down. And I think that instilled, again, to him some confidence level that he had not been playing with up to that point. And then other people were contributing in the same way. And that kind of stuff is contagious, as you know. And when you're playing basketball, momentum is such a big thing, and it can change in a heartbeat. And Indiana got all the momentum in this game and never let that slip away, and that was huge in this matchup.
Indiana and Purdue will be tomorrow night, 9 o'clock tip from Assembly Hall. You can hear it on our sister station, 93 WIBC, and Don Fischer will be on the call. Don, appreciate it as always. Enjoy the shoveling and stay warm, all right?
I hope I'm done shoveling because I did a lot of that yesterday and the day before.
I know it's nonstop, man. I know. I appreciate it, Don, as always.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Don Fischer, the voice of the Hoosiers. We'll take a quick recess, come back. Pacers, Hawks, pregame coming up 15 minutes from right now. Abbreviated show here on a Monday on The Fan.
You're listening to Query and Company on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
So, Eddie, you believe that the snow mountain that the parking lot has created, you didn't give me a date when you think it will be completely gone. I'm talking zero remnant.
You said what?
Completely
The
clean.
16th?
February 16th.
I said the under.
I mean, I'm counting on after today there being a lot of overcast days, I'm telling you. And then you get that, like, the problem too, like, it is pretty, right?
Yes.
But then you get once you get, like, the black.
The slush.
Yeah, I mean, the like, I don't even know what causes it. Like, when the snow turns to a black color because of, like, exhaust and mud and dirt and asphalt that all gets grained in, and it's crunchy.
I do have a question for you because I need some advice here.
Okay.
Yesterday, I went out to shovel off the driveway so I could make my way. And thank you to Radio 1 for this. They put me, Mark Dykton, and several others in a hotel last night because we are essential personnel. So I was cleaning off the driveway so I could drive out, obviously, to leave the house from the garage. And one of our neighbors that lives in the cul-de-sac, we're on the corner, and there's like 2 houses between ours. He has like a bobcat, and he was out there pushing snow off of the road so people could drive. And I'm shoveling my driveway, and he goes, "Hey, you want me to clean this off for you?" I'm like, "Well, don't twist my arm." Sure. Now, as a good person that I am, should I give him something in return?
Yes.
Okay. Now, this is where it gets a little hairy.
Okay.
Like 2 months ago, they have 2 dogs, and their dogs got loose. And we held on to their dogs because they didn't answer the house. Like, so do we still, should I still give them something and him something in return for doing that, even though we.
So you're saying in terms of the neighborly errand, you're now even.
Yes.
Or the neighborly favor, I mean, you're now even.
Yeah, in my mind, we're even, but at the same time, should I still be like, "Hey, thanks, here's a case of beer," or something like that?
Yeah, I would still do it.
I thought so as well.
Because you could make the argument the first time you were helping the dogs. You know what I mean?
True.
You're helping the dogs as well, right?
They do have 3 kids, and I'm sure that they would have been upset if their doggos were missing.
For those of you that are listening or are curious, the roads are the main roads. Now, I can't speak to some of the auxiliaries, but I drove down Meridian. I came from the Meridian-Kessler area, and our building is at 1200 North Meridian, and it took me probably 15 to 20 minutes. I mean, I went 20 miles an hour, but at no point did I feel that I was going to slide off or get stuck anywhere. And a big part of why the roads right now are starting to clear is because, thankfully, because people have stayed home, it's allowed the plows to get out and do it. And they are out there. And yes, I mean, I always get a kick out of the people that are like, "This is ridiculous, my subdivision." Well, listen, I mean, it takes a while to get to everybody. It's a pretty big metropolitan area. But it is amazing because we literally had, I think I saw the final count at 11.5 inches, and I think that's very fair. And then with drifting, I mean, there are some poor people I saw that are parked along Meridian Street, and I don't know how, I mean, it's going to take them forever to dig their car out, especially once all that snow freezes, because then you got to basically chop it away. I mean, it's significant for sure. And if you have the luxury of being able, I mean, I'm not here to like lecture anybody, but if you have the ability to stay home, work from home, whatever, for the next couple of days, you know, I would probably do that. I mean, it was, you know, if you need to get out, you're going to be able to get out. But if you can stay in, I would probably do so just to allow them to continue to clear things off. Again, Benedict Mathurin back in the mix for Indiana today. It is a game with the Hawks coming up, 1:30 tip. We will throw it out in just a couple of minutes here for the pregame for the Pacers Radio Network. Mathurin back in the fold, and that be Quentin Jackson as well. They continue to kind of cycle players through. A guy that since we were last on, I think, I can't remember which night it was, they all started to run together, and I was actually off, so it might have been Thursday night. But, you know, Jarris Walker started to show a little bit. We'll see if that continues. We'll see how things go. We'll talk about all of it tomorrow, and we'll get back into the full swing of the show. I thank you for listening. I encourage you to be safe. Pacers up next. We'll be back with you at noon tomorrow. And as always, I thank you for listening to Query & Company.